Hi, let us begin with an introduction to Python. I am following the book Computer Science with Python, author Sumita Arora, and publication is Dhanpat Rai and Co. This is book of class 12 and I am following it. Now let us begin with introduction to Python. Now what is a Python? Python is a high level language. It is a high level language. It's like English like language which is easily readable and it is understandable. And it is also a general purpose software which is used for developing desktop applications as well as they can also be used for developing web applications. For example, we all know YouTube was developed using Python and Google search engine was also developed using Python. Apart from that, many applications are also developed using Python. Now, let us see what are the uses of Python. General uses of Python. Using Python, you can connect to a database. You can fetch data from a database like SQL, FoxPro, etc. And you can also create files and you can manage them. You can create flat files and you can enter data in it, fetch the data from the files. You can delete the data or you can delete file also. So all these things can be done using Python, which we will be seeing in our upcoming classes. So this is about the basics of Python. Now we will see who has developed Python. Now we will see who has developed Python. Python was developed by Guido van Rossum. He was the person who developed Python and it got released in the year 1991. Now, what do we require to run Python programs? So, Python is an interpreted program, or you can say it requires an interpreter. Now, what is an interpreter? Interpreter is a program which converts your source code. Generally, Python programs are having extension with .py. The source code is having extension as .py and these source code programs have to be converted into executable code, that is to byte code, and this is done by interpreter. Now interpreter, how it works is it interprets line by line. It checks for error as well as it converts the source code into the byte code line by line. If there is any error in the program or in any line, it will display that particular line number. It won't go further for execution. It will stop there and it will give you the line number where error has occurred. So that is the work of interpreter. It converts your source code into byte code line by line. A source code into byte code line by line. So Python is an interpreted language. Now we will begin with revision tour. This is the very first chapter from the book Computer Science with Python, and author is Sumita Arora. This is the very first chapter, revision tour. Let us start with the first topic. What are tokens? Now, what are tokens? Tokens are nothing but small individual unit in a program. A small individual unit in a program is called as a token. Tokens can also be called as lexical units. They can also be called as lexical units. Now, there are different types of tokens in the program. Now, when you write a program, there are different parts in the program. and those parts are called as tokens. And what are the different parts, what are the different tokens we use in the program? First one is keyword, identifiers, third one literals, fourth one operators, fifth one punctuators. So these are different tokens which we see in the program. Now let us see the first token, keywords. Now what are keywords? Keywords are nothing but predefined words which is already available in the Python inbuilt, which cannot be used by the user as identifiers. We cannot use it. It is already predefined and it serves a special purpose. It has to be used for a special purpose, so you cannot use it for your needs. So these are predefined words and they have specific function. Now some of the keywords are for, range, while, break, continue, true, false. These are predefined words and they are called as keywords. These things which you might have seen in class 11 itself, just we are recalling it. So this is about keywords. Now let us see what are identifiers. Now let us see what are identifiers. What are identifiers? Identifiers are the names given to different entities in a program. It can be a name of a variable. It can be a name of a function. It can be name of a class. It can be name of a list, a tuple, a dictionary, sets, etc. So when you are giving a name to a particular entity of a program, it is called as, those names are called as identifiers. Okay. Now you have to follow some rules while giving names to the entities. Okay, when you are defining an identifier, you have to follow some rules. The first one is identifiers are case sensitive. There is difference between capital letter and small letter. So if you are writing capital A, it is different from small a. So they are case sensitive. And identifiers should not begin with a digit. For example, if I declare a variable like a is equal to 10, this is a variable example, a is equal to 10. It should not begin with a digit. I cannot write, suppose 1a is equal to 10. This is wrong because here identifier is beginning with number 1. You should not begin an identifier with digit. It can begin with a character, or you can begin an identifier with underscore. You can begin with underscore, and you should not use any special characters in the identifier. I cannot write a at the rate is equal to 10. This is not allowed. Or hash. These special characters or dot, you cannot use the special characters in the identifier names. Okay, so this is also incorrect. But you can begin identifier with underscore, and no keywords are allowed in identifiers. As I discussed earlier, keywords are having some functions associated with it. They are used for specific purpose, and you cannot use it as identifier. So you cannot use the keywords as identifiers. So what are identifiers? These are the names given to different entities in the program. Now let us see what are literals. Literals are nothing but constants whose value does not change. For example, x is equal to 10. X is equal to 10. In this 10 is a constant value and it is a literal. Now in this example, it is a string variable. I have stored Python in it, the string Python. Now this is also a constant, and in variable y I am storing value 10.45. This is a floating point constant. So these three things, 10, this Python and this 10.45, these are called as constants whose value does not change. So this is about constant, that is literals. Now what are different types of literals? Okay, now different types of literals are string literal. This is an example of a string literal. Number literals. This is an example of number literal where I have stored a number in it. Then Boolean literal, which can store either true or false value in it. That is, either true or false is called as a Boolean literal. And then none. It means nothing. None means nothing. These two things we will see later. Now just the examples I have given here. So what are different types of literals? String literal, number literal, Boolean literal and none literal. Now let us begin with string literals. Now what are string literals? String literals are nothing but sequence of characters written within double quotes. It can be a single quote also. These are nothing but sequence of characters. String literals are nothing but sequence of characters written in double quotes. I have written S is equal to Python in double quotes. These are called as string literals. If you have a string, a multi-line string which is more than one line, then you can write it like this. I have written text is equal to, you have to write the multiple line text in 3 quotes like this. 3 quotes like this. You begin with 3 quotes, write the text and then you close it with 3 quotes. Then it will become a multiple line string constant. So this is about string literals. Now we will see what are number literals. Now we will see what are number literals. So number literals are nothing but number constants. Now there are 3 types of number literals. One is integer, second one is floating point number literals and complex number literals. Now what are integer number literals? That is, this is nothing but when you write x is equal to 12, this is an integer number literal. Example of integer number literal, a simple integer number literal. Now when you see integer number literal, it can be written in 3 forms. That is, again it is divided into 3 types. Integer literals, that is decimal literal, octal integer literal and hexadecimal integer literal. Now what are decimal integer literals? It is nothing but when you say x is equal to 12, which is having bases, this is a decimal integer literal which is having bases 10. So the numbers which are having bases 10 are called as integer constants, decimal integer constants, and octal integer constants are nothing but they are having bases 8. That is, the numbers from 0 to 7. Okay, decimal octal numbers, they have numbers from 0 to 7. Okay, so they are having bases 8. You have to remember that octal numbers always begin with 0. Now you must have learned this in class 11, conversion of decimal to octal and conversion of decimal to hexadecimal. If you want to convert it into octal, decimal number to octal, you have to divide the decimal number by 8 and you have to consider the reminders to form the octal number. Okay, so octal numbers are having bases 8. Similarly, hexadecimal number, they are having base as 16. And hexadecimal numbers, how they are obtained? When you divide a decimal number by 16, you will, the reminders, you consider the reminders to form the hexadecimal number. Okay, and hexadecimal numbers always begin with 0x followed by the numbers. Okay, that is, you will have the numbers from 0 to 7, and then 8. From 8 it will begin, you will have the alphabets, A, B, C, D, okay, up to F. So that is hexadecimal number which begins with 0x and having bases 16, which is obtained from the decimal number by dividing a decimal number by 16. So this which you must have learnt in class 11. So there are 3 types of integers. So we are familiar with decimal type, which is having base 10, and the rest 2 are octal and hexadecimal. And the next number literal is floating point number literal. That is, when you write a floating point number in a variable, that is, if I write x is equal to 10.45, this 10.45 is a floating point literal. A floating point literal is having 2 portions in it. One is integer part, another one is decimal part. And floating point integers are having decimal point in it. It is having integer portion before decimal point, and after decimal point it is having a decimal part. So this is about floating point numbers. And finally you have got the complex numbers, which are in the form a plus jb, where a and b are real numbers and j is an imaginary number. So this is about number literals: integer, floating point and complex. Now we will see what are Boolean literals and special literal none. As we have completed with number literal, now we will see Boolean literals. What are Boolean literals? Boolean literals are nothing but constants which represents the value true or false. They denote the value true or false. For example, when you are writing a program in future, you may come across a situation where you have to write a loop. For example, it may be a while loop where when you are uncertain, you may require to use the Boolean literal true or false. For example, you can write a variable answer is equal to true. You may need to check this condition. If answer is equal to true, you need not put double quotes, directly you can write true. So if you want to check the condition, if answer is equal to true, then you can use the Boolean literal. That is, true means it is a Boolean literal. Okay, so you can use Boolean literal in loops and in if conditions also. If conditional statement also you can use. So this is about Boolean literal. And finally we have got a special literal called none. A special literal none. Now what do you mean by none? None means nothing. If you want to define a variable with no value in it, you are not certain whether you want to store an integer, whether you want to store a string, whether you want to store a floating point number, or it is a list or a tuple, when you are unsure, but you know that you are going to use this variable in the future, then you can assign value none. For example, I can write x is equal to none. It means x is storing nothing. That is, this represents a no value. It is not storing any value. In future, it can store an integer or string, etc. anything. So this is about special literal none. Now we have completed the literals. Now if you like my video, you can subscribe to my channel Ishwari Classes for more videos, and don't forget to share it and like it. Now we will see next token, operators. Now what are operators? Operators are used to perform operations on variables, or you can use constants. That is, you can perform operations using constants. Okay, so that is called as operator. For example, it can be a plus. This is an arithmetic operator. Or it can be a greater than or equal to. This is a relational operator. Or you can use and. So that we will see different types of operators now. So what is an operator? It is used to perform operation on variables in an expression. Okay. Now let us see different types of operators. First one is arithmetic operator. Arithmetic operator means what? Plus, minus, division, multiplication, integer division, modulus. So these operations, these arithmetic operations can be performed using these operators, plus, minus and all those. So this is called as arithmetic operators. And the next one is relational operator, greater than, lesser than, greater than or equal to, lesser than or equal to, or equal to, when you are comparing two variables. When you are comparing two variables, or you can compare the expressions also. So that is called as relational operator. And third one is logical operator, when you are using and or and not. And is generally used to, you can combine two expressions, and or also. And not is a logical operator. So this is arithmetic, relational, logical, and membership operator. Membership operator in, not in. Identity operator is not. Assignment operator, plus, equal to. So what is this assignment operator? When you write, you can write something like this: A is equal to A plus 10. Can also be written as A plus equal to 10. Short form. So this is short form. This is called as assignment operator. And the shift operators. So this is about operators, which is used to perform some operation. Now let us see the final token, punctuators. Now what are punctuators? Punctuators are nothing but symbols which we use in our programming language. Some of the common symbols which we use are hash, which is used to write a comment, and double quotes for writing string, and colon. This you will be using in loop and conditional statements when there are statements to be followed, and the square brackets for list, round brackets for tuples, and equal to, we use in expressions. So these punctuators we use commonly in our program. So what are punctuators? These are the symbols which we use in our program. Now with this we complete the tokens. Now what are the different tokens we have seen? Keywords, literals, identifiers, operators, and punctuators. 5 tokens we have seen. So in the next video we will be seeing what are variables. Now if you like my videos, you can subscribe to my channel Ishwari Classes, and you share it with your friends, and don't forget to like it. Okay, thank you.